make these narratives. Okay, listen, this NFC Championship game, and I'll say it one more time to you. I think the NFC is littered with great rosters, and the two best rosters in the NFL are probably playing in the conference championship game here. As a matter of fact, on the NFC side, you see it. On the AFC side, it's driven by the quarterback. The quarterbacks in that conference are driven by that position. This game that you're seeing, Jalen Hurts is the 730th highest paid player in the league. There's 10 kickers paid higher than him. That's why you can accumulate all these talented guys. That's why John Lynch can go after Christian McCaffrey and put a $20 million guy on a roster because you're not paying your guy $45 million. This all is about maneuvering the cap. I want to bring Mike Golic into this. And by the way, before we start it all off here, Merrill Reese wants to say this to you here, Mike. He's like, you make sure you tell him he's one of my favorite people. We had him on in the first hour, and he said you used to do a show in Philly, Golic something, and he said that he had a blast being around you, and he just wanted to make sure we said hi to you.
Yeah, no, Merrill, God, he's a great guy. Yeah, it was called Golic's Got It. It was kind of a humorous look at the next week's opponent. It was a lot of fun to do, but Merrill, man, I did a few of the Philly games this year for Westwood One and got to hang out with him and Mike Quick for a bit. So it was always a lot of fun. He's a great dude.
Mike, what was that show that you did before you went on ESPN? It was a nationally syndicated deal that you had. It was like the World of Sports or something like that?
It was called The Lighter Side of Sports. It was kind of a blooper show where I would either talk about bloopers that were already done or I would set up some of my teammates with some bloopers as well. So, yeah, a lot of tongue-in-cheek, lighthearted stuff.
Mike, NFC title game in Philadelphia. I said that these two are the most complete rosters probably in the NFL when you look at both sides of the ball. Mike, when you're not paying your quarterback, I mean, Kittle and Goddard and Bosa and Warner and Hassan Reddick and Fletcher. And, I mean, they're just littered everywhere. How do you see this matchup on Sunday?
Well, I think the NFC is going to win the Super Bowl. So I do think the NFC has the two best teams of the four that are left, definitely the most complete teams. This game, I mean, we're all waiting. I called the 49er Dallas game, and for the first half, Brock Purdy actually looked like a rookie because of the Dallas defense. Dallas defense was fantastic. I think they just got worn out. They lost a D lineman in that game. They lost some rotation. So San Fran started leaning on them a bit in the second half and got their running game going. But Purdy is used to like more of a well-oiled machine, and Dallas kind of mucked that up a little bit. And now you're playing a Philly defense. I mean, the one thing about San Francisco, you had the leading sacker in Bosa at 18.5. The next closest had 5. In Philly, you got 4 players over 10 sacks, 70 sacks in the regular season. They just absolutely come at you. And I love this matchup because you look at the five-fingered monster of San Francisco with Ayuk having a career year, Elijah Mitchell, two stints on the IR, but he's back. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, and then, of course, Christian McCaffrey. They've now played 6 games together all year, and they're 6-0, and it's a bevy of talent for Brock to throw to. But if there's a defense that can kind of mess that up, I think it can be Philly's. It's going to be a great chess match for Philly to try and throw Brock Purdy off, not so much with one-on-ones, which they want to win, but with disguises, with alignments, with trying to fool Purdy with where your eyes are as he's trying to fool you, where he's going with his eyes. It's going to be some interesting matchups for sure.
Mike, you bring up the chess game here. And as you know, in a chess game, man, like you said, one wrong move, man, you're in checkmate here. Is there anything to it, or is it media made, Mike? The experience in the postseason here. I mean, Shanahan's been to a Super Bowl, albeit 28-point lead. They lose it, but he's now in his 3rd conference title game in 4 years. And he's done it almost like Joe Gibbs style with 3 different quarterbacks this year. Does the coaching, in your opinion, in a game like this, how much does that matter when you're talking about inexperience like Sirianni?
We'd love to sit there and say that experience matters, but what did Cincinnati do last year? Cincinnati made it all the way to the Super Bowl with no experience. I mean, to the point where, Joe Burrow is saying, we know the history of this team, but we're not part of that history. We're part of the future. So you'd sit there. It's kind of, Dan, it's kind of like when you have your bye. Oh, is this a good time for your bye? If it's your bye, you're like, hell yeah, it's a good time for my bye. You're always going to sell yourself on the side of it. Or if you don't have a bye till the last week, that's okay. We're in rhythm until then. So, experience is the same way. You'd like to think that it matters a little bit. But again, a team will come along like Cincinnati and completely disprove that. So I don't think so. I think confidence can overtake the experience when we're talking about the playoffs here. And this Philadelphia Eagle team is completely confident in what they're doing. So was San Francisco. And I think you agree, these are the most complete teams. So they're not just hanging on quarterback play, though they'd love to see their quarterbacks play well. They have other parts of the team that can secure wins for them.
Mike, I said this is the best offensive line I've seen since that Cowboy Emmett line. I mean, Eric Williams and Tune, Malata and Lane. I mean, Sayamalo and Dickerson. Dickerson's an all-pro himself. He's a Pro Bowler, I should say. Nate, maybe I'd give it over Sayamalo, the center. Kelsey's going to the Hall of Fame. Over Stebnoski. Ray Donaldson was a great player, the guys that you and I played against.
Yeah.
Mike, this offensive line is pretty impressive. And when Lane Johnson's in there, they're formidable. That's a formidable group.
Oh, it's the best old line in football. And last year they went through some nicks and and they had to go with something without. Kind of like what Cincinnati's doing. I mean, kudos to them on the AFC side of 3 backups in last week's game for them. But this O-line, I mean, what a matchup you're looking for against a pressure line from San Francisco. As I said, though, you have a leading sacker in Bosa with 18.5, who has been held sackless the last 4 games. They didn't get a sack against the Cowboys. And the Cowboys have a good offensive line. The Eagles have a great offensive line. So that doesn't mean that San Francisco is not going to get any sacks, but when they were just blocking straight up four D lineman rush or edge rushers against the O-line, San Francisco didn't do much. So it'll be interesting where this one goes for San Francisco there. And on the flip side, Trent Williams, listen, he stymied Micah Parsons. I mean, when Micah lined up on that side pass rushing, he didn't get near the quarterback. Micah flipped to the other side, and DeMarcus Lawrence went to the right side in probably the second half, a little part about the last quarter and a half, and Micah started getting some pressure from the other side. So that was an interesting thing as well. So we talk about the rushers for Philadelphia. Well, Trent Williams is going to the Hall of Fame himself, and he secures that left side pretty well.
Mike, I'm going to ask you a question about dual threat. I'm not ever building my team around a dual threat guy. It's not because I don't think they're talented or I think they can carry you far. But look at the history, Mike, RG3. Kyler Murray this year. Lamar Jackson not being able to finish the season 3 years in a row. Now in the offseason, since January 9th, you could start talking contract extension with Jalen. I mean, the guy in Buffalo, if he keeps playing the way he's playing, the way he is running the ball, he's going to be Andrew Luck too. It's going to be a 7-year career. I mean, do you believe you can build your team around guys? I mean, Jalen's missed time 2 years in a row. Do you think you can build a team around a guy that is going to eventually get hurt?
Well, I mean, I think the where we are in the NFL now is those are the type of quarterbacks you have. They all get on the move, right? I mean, Mahomes creates so many things on the move and runs enough where he's going to get hit and get hurt. Josh Allen, his second year, they tried to have him stop running and he wasn't the same. You have to play him that way. And more of guys that are coming up through high school and the 7-on-7s and into college are dual threat quarterbacks because they could throw and they're a threat as a run. I get what you're saying. You hold your breath a lot more than that because we've seen, the Tom Brady's win Super Bowls, the Peyton Manning's win Super Bowls, the Aaron Rodgers would win, the one Super Bowl. But
look at Burrow. He's now 2 years in a row. Kyler Murray gets a $46.1 million deal.
Yep.
Mike, we're not going to see him until next October.
I agree, but remember, Joe Burrow blew his knee out. He's a pocket guy. He got his knee blown out his rookie year. I understand what you're saying, but I think the trend is going toward dual threat quarterbacks, and I don't think that's going to end. and you're going to have to pay market value. Whether you want to or not, that's the game right now. As much as teams will want to try and get around it, and we know how it works now. If you get a quarterback that blossoms early before his rookie deal is up, you go out and spend a hell of a lot of money on other players and really build that team before you have to pay your quarterback $45 million a year. Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow, they're going to get $45, $50 million a year. And those aren't the dual threat quarterbacks. I know what you're saying, but you're going to have to pay Jalen. You're going to have to pay Lamar. I mean, because this is what I would say to you. If you're not going to, what are you going to do? Who are you getting? Who are you getting?
I get it. I mean, you're right. You're caught in a pickle. But Mike, if there's anything I learned this year about the two teams that are in the NFC Conference Championship game, I don't need one of those guys, Mike. I need a roster. And if I can put a roster together, you're telling me I can win with Brock Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo at $25 million and I don't have to pay Dak the $42 million? The Cowboys are in salary cap hell for the next 5 years, and they got to figure out what to do with Zeke. The 49ers, I mean, they're going to probably trade to Tennessee, probably trade Garoppolo, get some picks for him. Mike, I think you can win with a $25 million quarterback.
So what's the answer then? So what do you do in Philadelphia? Hey, Jalen, thanks for the memories. Who are you getting? Who are you getting? Who are you sticking in there and saying, we're going to get just as far if they're not proven? And of these quarterbacks where their time is up, where they may not be the best quarterback in the league, but their time is up at the right time to get paid market value. So do you go to Jalen Hurts and say, man, we need you. You lead us. You do great. But listen, sorry, we can't pay you what the top quarterbacks are paying. It's not going to happen. We're going to get caught in this circle, and you have to get lucky. You have to get lucky, I guess is the wrong word, because you're doing your due diligence, but we know first-round quarterbacks are a 50-50 shot, but some, like Dak, is a fourth-rounder. Obviously, Purdy's a seventh-rounder. Brady was a sixth-rounder. But I'm talking about the first-round quarterbacks where you have that built-in time to build the team around, but you have to have that quarterback be great or at least really good in that time frame so you can get them weapons to throw around and you can have a great defense. Look at the last time San Francisco went to the Super Bowl. They had Garoppolo. They weren't paying a lot of money, and they had a great defense that was leading the way. You look at when Tom isn't taking a ton of money from Tampa Bay. When they won the Super Bowl, they weren't getting to the Super Bowl without that defense and the way it was playing. So I get what you're saying, but when the bell rings and, the Brinks trucks come a-calling, what do you do? I mean, so I would ask you, what do you do in Philadelphia when it's time to pay? What do you do? What do you do in Baltimore?
I'll show you, Mike.
Yeah. I don't, but I understand perfectly what you're saying, but I don't know what the answer is to say all of a sudden, okay, let's make a change here and hope, that it works out. I can't believe there are people that, not to get too far off the subject, that are saying in Chicago they should trade Fields, and get a bevy for the draft pick. Well, they can still trade the draft pick and they can still get assets for it. Fields is still in his rookie deal. Fields, they got to build a team around him. To sit there and say trade him and draft one of the surefire first-round quarterbacks coming out this year, give me a break. Who's surefire anymore? I mean, you've got a guy that needs to improve on passing, but runs incredibly well. He's a dual threat you're talking about, and he's in his rookie deal. So why would you give up on that right now when you see progress there? But at some point, man, the bank comes a calling, and you got to make some payments.
You think Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback?
Wow. I mean, I'm looking at, the Mahomes, the Burrow, the Allen. I like Herbert a lot. If he's not top 5, he's top 8, top 10 for sure, probably top 8. I would say closer to top 5 though. I mean, the thing about it is we keep talking about dual threat and maybe there's not as good a passers, but I think he passes the ball pretty well. But you can't, we're both former defenders. We can put to explain to people what it means when you have a quarterback that can run, what it does to us on the defensive side.
We used to say this, Mike, when they had Steve Young and Montana on on the roster in San Fran. We used to always say this. I'll tell you what, I hope they start Montana. And Joe was special.
Yeah.
But that thing Steve Young did, getting out in the perimeter, running 4.5s,
Yep.
it was undefensible at times.
Oh, it was. And then so now you're talking about, in our day, a Steve Young, a John Elway breaking out of the pocket and sometimes being dangerous running or throwing the ball. Now they're have planned power runs with the quarterback where the back ends up being an extra blocker. I mean, that's tough to defend. And I get the possibility of injury. I completely understand it. But, man, it's great to have. It is great to have, but you definitely hold your breath a little more.
Couple last questions here for you, Mike. AFC-wise, I couldn't believe what I heard, but then I realized it. So January 9th, as I said to you, you could start talking about the quarterbacks in the 2020 draft. And what did Mike Brown say? Hey, we want to keep Joe Burrow here for his entire career. And what's the next phrase? Maybe he should take a pay cut so we can play. And I'm thinking to myself, so wait a minute. This guy's made you relevant. Mike, I don't know, last time you and I were talking Bengals football in January, 2 years in a row, he's put you in a conference title game. And the first thing you're talking about with his extension is that he should take a pay cut. I mean, give me your sense. You see him finishing his career in Cincinnati?
Well, I mean, the way it's going now, there's no doubt that he should. But let's also remember he's very short into his career. So let's see this thing go for a bit. But it's trending that way. I mean, we also have to understand that players are trying to get their money and teams are trying to conduct a business. They want to be great and conduct a business as well. And you're dealing with a salary cap. Now, the salary cap's going to continue to go up. And while you have to have a great coach and a great GM and great players, you got to have a great capologist. You got to have somebody that's looking out 4 or 5 years ahead. You look at the Mahomes deal that was signed, but it was still delayed by a year or two until the end of that 5th year of the rookie year before it kicks in. That's what you can have with Joe. You can do an extension, but you don't have it kick in till after his 5th year. So you buy a little bit more time. But you can't, you know what? You got to pay him. You got to pay him, and then you got to work around it. You can't sit there and expect a guy, and everybody will look at Brady and say Brady was never the highest paid. Everybody will say, oh, he did what he should for the team. And I get it. If you're so inclined to say, I'll take less so we can have more collectively, more power to you. But if you also say, I want my market value, I can't blame you either. That's then on the team to figure out what they need to do. Because it's not like we haven't had teams right at the top of the salary cap with expensive quarterbacks winning Super Bowls or winning. That's happened as well. It gets harder. There's no doubt about it. But that's where it falls more on the team. And boy, oh boy, the union, they sure as hell don't want these quarterbacks to take less. Remember when they stepped in baseball on the Rodriguez situation when he was going to take less to play somewhere else. And they're like, no, don't do that. You're doing this for the next contract and the next contract of other people. So Alex Rodriguez didn't, so you have to, unless that's what you want to do and it's your right to do it. I don't blame these guys at all for saying, hey, give me my market value.
Boy, Mike, when you and I, all of a sudden a union rep would come in and tell us, hey, your contract is up. They would tell us the contracts and the money. Remember, they used to give us all those lists. Yeah. And you're sitting there when you're talking with your agent, don't take any less money. We used to always get pressure from the union to make sure that we never took pay cuts. How do you see that game, the AFC title game, Mike? Do you see Cincinnati going back to the Super Bowl again for a second year?
I actually do. I mean, they did such a great job last week with 3 backup O linemen, shorter passes, get the ball out to the players, let them get yards after the catch on a crappy field. They're hitting it. They're hitting the high notes just like they did last year going into the playoffs. We don't know what to expect out of Mahomes. I expect him to play, but there's no way. You and I both know there's no way he can be 100% and do what he normally does in running around a little bit, even as much as they're trying to do to him this week. And the high ankle sprain had to be more on the mild side. There's no way you're going back in the game if you have a bad high ankle sprain. You're out 3 to 4 weeks on that one. So he'll play, but he'll be hobbled. I just think they're hitting their highs right now are the Bengals. The question will be, can they make Mahomes move around on that bad ankle? Cincinnati only had like 33 sacks in the regular season. They need to find a way to get some pressure on Pat.
Final question for you. Is it time, in your opinion, for Dallas to move off of Dak? And I got what you said a couple minutes ago. Okay, if you want to move off of Dak, who you're replacing him with?
Right.
Okay, so that's got to be something to look at because, I mean, right now, Mike, if you look, they couldn't even get Brandon Cooks in the trading deadline because they were so squeezed against the cap. They kind of kicked the can a little bit on OBJ, but the Cowboys are limited, Mike, on what they can and can't do. Do they move off of him, in your opinion? Do they trade him in the offseason? What do you do with Dak?
So here's the thing that I don't know, Dan, is I don't know if you trade him, that's one thing. Then there's, but to cut him, to get rid of him, I don't know what your dead money situation would have to be horrific. So it wouldn't be doing you any good. Trade him, then who's trading for him for that amount of money? Because there are quarterbacks out there you could kind of look at and say, I want to trade for,
Or Houston, Mike. Trade to Houston, get their assets they got from Cleveland,
right?
Where you could build some more equity up in your draft capital, and you'd have your salary cap wouldn't take a beating because you'd be on rookie deals. That's something that I would think about.
But who are you getting at quarterback?
Agreed.
Who you got? Because you still have to trade for Derek Carr, right? His deal's not up. You got to trade for Aaron Rodgers. So if you want that, I'm just throwing names out there because the one thing they're not going to do is then, sign a rookie and let's start over with a rookie when they're supposedly ready to win right now. So I don't know where they go. That's the biggest question to me. If you're going to give up on it, they were saying that. I said this when I was doing my shows at ESPN when they were talking about dumping Romo for years. I'm like, okay, who you getting? You can't just say get rid of him. You got to tell me who are you replacing him with if you're a playoff team so you don't drop down and can go up. The whole idea in the offseason is to improve. So tell me how you're going to do it, how much money it's going to cost you, what assets it's going to cost you, and overall, are you going to be better in bringing in this quarterback to help you get where you want to go?
Mike, I want to sneak one more in on you if I can, please.
Sure.
It's funny. I'm listening to Sean Payton talk like he's going to be picking his spot wherever he wants to coach. Well, Mickey Loomis and the Saints own his rights for the next 2 years. And to me, they're going to want a John Gruden deal, Mike, where you're going to have some sort of compensation dealt with them because let's look at what happened this last offseason. The Saints lost their 10th pick to the Eagles, and the 10th pick is in Philadelphia right now. They don't have a first-round pick. So they're just not going to let Sean go and pick and go to Denver if he wants. They have no assets. They gave him all to Seattle to get Russell Wilson in there. Houston, he may get that job with the McNair because there's a lot of draft assets. But this is not as easy as this thing's going to be played. Do you see like a John Gruden deal that could be like 2 1s and a 2? I think the Raiders got for John from the Buccaneers. Could you see something like that?
I think it'll be at least 1-1. I don't know if it'll be 2 1s, but it'll at least be one first rounder. And I'm with you. If the Saints don't like the deal, they have no obligation to Sean Payton to say, oh, we're just going to be good guys and let you, go do your thing. They'll say, hey, go work at, where's he at? Fox? Go work at Fox for another year, and we'll revisit it if some team wants to give up a little more. If not, then he's got to wait the 2 years until his deal would be up. But yeah, this is business, man. You can have a great relationship with somebody, but this is business. You better get something for it to show your fan base and something that's going to help your team out the most. He is a big-time asset that should be able to bring you in some big-time assets before he gets his $15 million a year from whatever team he's going to sign with. But I'm with you. I'm like, all right, Sean, great. We have no problem, letting you go do this and talk to them or whatever. But there's going to be a big price tag for us that we need to get back for you. And the first person that should understand that is Sean Payton.
Absolutely. Mike, tell people where they can watch you and listen to you. You're so great. Everyone in Philadelphia loves you, man. I mean, to this day, you're one of the most revered people in that city. They love you and all your work that you've done. You've always made time for that community too. Tell them where they can watch you.
Well, I'm doing, podcasts for DraftKings with Jess Smetana, and I do stuff with, with Stu Gatz over at Metalark as well. And my son Mike does shows with DraftKings, and we do some shows together. And I've been calling games all year for the national radio for the NFL on Westwood One, and I'm actually going to be working the Super Bowl here in Arizona. I did that last year as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Other than that, just coming on shows like yours and just love talking sports. I enjoy it a lot.
My daughter goes to GCU. She's the captain of the rugby team there.
Really?
And I'm there. Oh, God. Mike, did she just play BYU? They got beat. They're the national champs. My daughter's on the number 2 ranked team. So
wow.
We're always in Phoenix. Maybe we should catch a beer there, man, because her rugby team, I think they're playing Arizona State this weekend. And then the weekend after that, they play Arizona. But my daughter goes to GCU there, man. She absolutely loves it.
Let me tell you, I mean, that sport too, rugby, those are some of the athletes in the world that look down on us. What do you mean you guys need pads and a helmet? We don't need any of that.
My daughter's like this. You wore a helmet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wore a helmet.
You know, they should all say to us, why don't we learn how to tackle like them? That's what we all need to be doing.
My daughter, she goes like this, Mike. She goes, did you roll your helmet up and put it in your back pocket? Because you look that old. Mike, thanks a lot, my friend.
You got it, yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
You got it.
You got it. Mike Golic, man. I appreciate that. That's really awesome stuff for him stepping in with us. Just a legendary broadcaster, too. Love getting him on. Awesome stuff. Sills finally got about the dude. So wait a minute. You want me to scream at guests? Is that what you guys think that this is? How do you think I build relationships up? Screaming at people? Oh, wait a minute. That's just uneducated people like some of you. Sills should have Golic on here more often. He's been on like 5 times. He's been on 5 times. He's a friend. Want me to scream at my friends? Hey, man, how come you talk to him nice? Well, he's knowledgeable. That's why I talk to Mike Golic nice. I talk to Mike Golic nice because he's knowledgeable. Unlike some of you. The second most knowledgeable person that's here right now on the National Football Show is Tone. More Mike Golic, please. Less Sileo. Yeah. Hey, he wants to play. He wants to pay Jalen. Damn. I'm gonna pay Brock Purdy. I can't even say it with a straight face. This got nothing to do with integrity. I just can't lie like that. Hey, Tone, watch this. Hey, man, I got Brock Purdy over Jalen on Sunday. Man, I can't do that, man. I can't lie like that. Hey, Niner guys, I know you guys are in here, man. I can't do that, man. It's not real. There's not a chance I could do that. I even tried going with the 2-0. Allen will be a 50 million interception machine. Allen is a stud. Hey, Mike Golic doesn't think that Jalen Hurts is a top 5 quarterback. I've been telling you that all year. How you doing? Well, what? Wait a minute. Mike just said the same thing I did. I just say it harsher. Right to the point. Sills has got a little bit more of a pungent punch instead of some others. Jalen's not a top 5 quarterback. He admits it too. But I'm the monster guy. Okay? Jalen ain't no top 5 guy. Paying a guy $50 million. Good luck to you, man. No, hey, Craig, you go ahead and pay your dual threat. It's all good, man. Technically, Purdy had a better postseason so far. Jalen is in that 6 to 8 range for me. That's what Mike said. Didn't he say that? I think that's what Mike said, that he's in the 6 to 8 range. Let me think. Burrow 1. No, Mahomes 1. Burrow 2. Allen 3. Herbert 4. Who would be the 5th? Who would be the 5th quarterback if it's not Hurts? It ain't Dak. No way 5th. No way would Dak be the fifth. Who would be the fifth? Let's see here. The legendary arms. The arms race in the NFL. Hang on. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert. Who would be fifth? Trevor Lawrence. Who would be sixth? Derek Carr? He just got fired. Who would be sixth? Oh, okay. Rodgers. 7. Is Jalen better than Kyler Murray? Trevor Lawrence has got the same playoff record as Jalen Hurts does. 1-1. How you doing? Who's number 7? Is Hurts better than Stafford? Stafford's got a Super Bowl. Stafford's better than Hurts. Matthew Stafford's better than Hurts. I guess Stafford. Brady's got to be there at 8. Hurts 9. Or Brady 7 and Hurts 8. How about that one, Tone? How about that one? Brady 7 and Hurts 8. Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Lawrence, Rodgers, Brady, Hurts. Yeah, sounds right. How you doing? Yeah, sounds about right. Josh and Pat will be on the watching Hurts win. Hurts in his 154 yards throwing. Got Lamar Jackson too. Deshaun Watson. You got to wait for Deshaun to get back in the rhythm though, man. Okay? Hurts success. No 4,000-yard passer. But I tell you, he would never do it. All right. Hour 3. Hit the like button. Keep it here on the National Football Show.